Hi, my name's Isha and I'm the creator of this video. Welcome to my video essay on sexual objectification of women in video games. Now that's a lot to break down, so we need to break this into steps. Part 1. What is objectification? Objectification, as defined by the Oxford Dictionary, is the act of reducing someone to the status of a mere object. When it comes to objectification of women, there's a long history of discrimination. For example, sexism institutionalized by laws, suffrage. You'll learn a bit of it in US history. However, there are a lot of questions about sexual objectification for identifying it that you don't learn. For example, is the person reduced to their physical appearance or parts of their body? Is the person treated like they have no free will, like they don't speak or act without permission? Is the person treated like they are interchangeable with other women? Is the woman in subjectivity as a person who feels and experiences things in their own life denied? And is the woman's ownership in someone else's hands, aka she's treated like she is owned or something to be acted upon? Those are just a few basic questions. Laura Mulvey, a feminist film theorist, sported the term the male gaze. The male gaze is a phrase used to describe how media like movies, television, and games are created to cater towards the ideal heterosexual male audience by objectifying women. Think about it this way. In a scene of a movie, there are parts that enforce the male gaze. First, there are the directors, the people behind the camera responsible for the objectification. Second, there are people in the media, often males, who enforce the male gaze. They sexualize the women in the scene and often validate the ideal male viewer. And third, the male viewer. People keep enforcing the male gaze, which is why it still exists and is prevalent. These components are also what make the hetero male viewer pleased, and the male gaze is apparent in a lot of media. So now we have a definition of sexual objectification. Taking all our parts, we get a definition that's roughly this. Sexual objectification is when a female is reduced to a sex object for heterosexual male pleasure. Well, now we get to move on to part 2. How does objectification in the male gaze present itself in multiplayer video games? We have to focus on two types of objectification: explicit objectification and more implicit objectification. So, what's the difference? Okay, so think about it this way. Explicit objectification is the objectification that is so easily seen. Basically, when the breasts and the behind of a woman are enhanced, huge, put directly in front of the camera, or when a woman is simply treated as a sex object without any further explanation. Think about every game that has a stripper pole, or pimps, or women that are prostitutes. Implicit objectification is the objectification that has been normalized, that's harder to see. Think about women just wearing skin-tight outfits, or just women's armor in games not being as covering or enhancing boobs. It's also important to note that these female characters do not have the freedom or the choice to wear these clothing. These are clothing that, statistically speaking, male game developers have put females in to further objectify and sexualize them. So now we have a background for objectification of women in video games. But how is this harmful? How does this affect women in gaming? Statistically speaking, around 51% of the population is female. However, about 41% of gamers are female according to 2020 statistics. That's a whole 10% chopped off. The statistics get worse when looking at esports. 35% of esports gamers are female and only 30% of esports viewers are female. That means that only 35% of gamers that are professional were assigned female at birth, which is a huge disproportion. This underrepresentation of females in gaming makes it so that females simply aren't as inclined to game. I know that my personal experience was that it took me a long time to get interested in gaming. And I wasn't good because of the fact that I had never gamed, because of the fact that I had never been told that I could game. And the thing is, it's an endless cycle. Stereotypes about gamer girls are that they're bad at the game, that they're weak, that they're there for dating, that they're there to romantically woo, and that they're simply just bad at the game. And what happens is that once these stereotypes are perpetuated, along with the objectification of women, women in gaming are seen as these sexy, dumb people for male gamers to kind of save. The message this sends out to women in gaming is that we are here to be the gamer girlfriend. We are here to be the sole female of the group. We have to be pretty. We have to be cute. We have to like pink. We have to play support characters. Not only that, we self-objectify ourselves. We get down on ourselves if we aren't as sexy as the characters that we play, or if we aren't as bold, or just simply dainty. And what this does is extremely harmful to women. And this brings us to our next point. How is objectification in video games harmful to men and the patriarchy? Because the thing is, you can't say that this is only harmful to women, because this harms everyone as a whole to not have women represented. Self-objectification and sexual objectification of women in video games harms men by normalizing them as the gamers. Not only does it make it so that men aren't open to new experiences and potentially more fun by including more demographics, men that don't like video games or that want to do other things are harmed because they've been restricted to being the gamers. This also creates a savior complex. Men feel the need to be the ones to carry women to victory, or to be the ones to save women, or as soon as they see a woman, fall in love with them. This also portrays men as the subject to the woman's object. While women are heavily sexualized, you have men saying that she's beautiful, saying that she's attractive, saying that she's sexy, and quite honestly, just objectifying her. This harms men because this creates a world that often, more than not, they don't want to be in. And I speak directly to the people assigned male at birth when I say this, that every time you see an objectified woman, and every time you call that woman sexy, or every time you make a joke about her being sexualized, that enforces sexism, there is someone that you care about that is a woman that the very next day could be put in those shoes. And that brings us to our final topic. What can we do to help? 3 out of 5 of my friends who I asked about implicit objectification of women couldn't spot when a woman was being adamantly sexualized. The 2 people who I asked that couldn't spot it were assigned male at birth. This isn't calling men inherently ignorant. This is calling out that women have to deal with this and men have the privilege to not think about it, which is why you, the viewer, no matter of your sex, needs to speak up about this issue and needs to make change, whether it's educating someone you love or making a video essay on the objectification of women in your favorite pastime. You can do this. We can do this. This is something that we have to change as a community.